The soldier ducked, barely getting under cover as the wall behind him exploded. His head was pounding, his muscles aching, but now was not the time for rest. He counted the seconds. The mounted missile launchers always took a few seconds to recalibrate, and if he could take advantage of that time. With the sounds of gunfire and chaos, he heard a small click as the enemy missile platform prepared a second strike. Recognizing his opportunity, the soldier jumped from behind the wall and fired his pistol. His shoulders tightened as he braced for recoil. Now was not the time for rest. Glancing down at the battlefield, there were only a few more enemy platforms to be taken, and this front would be secured. But before he could move to join his platoon, he received a notification on the heads-up display in his helmet. You've been reassigned. Report to command for your new assignment. Looks like time for rest wasn't coming anytime soon. She gracefully jumped off the roof of the building, plummeting to the alley below. She rolled into a handspring, vaulting through a broken window into the abandoned warehouse inside. Years of navigating the streets kept her body strong, and her mind sharp. She held her breath as the police ran past, looking for the jewel thief. She may have to maintain this position for a few hours, but she's used to it. Amira was infamous in this city, and for her infamy she racked up a significant bounty. She was 30,000 credits now? 40? She let out a small smile. That bounty was nothing compared to the treasure she held in her hands. This jewel could sell for 1,000,000 credits. No, more. Tens of millions. This was one of the last prismatic amethysts still left in the world. She clutched the stone closer to her chest. The police seemed persistent this time. Amira was fine with that. All she had to do was wait. She slowed down the pace of her breathing. She may have to be here for a few days. At least, that's what she thought, before a flurry of laser arrows pierced her brain, killing her instantly. 20,000 credits have been deposited to your account. Good hunting. A few drinks here, a few laughs there, a few more drinks, a sleight of hand, and bang. Keycard access to the loading bay of the safe travels. The camo suit can handle the rest. A secret mission means low profile and low security. Besides, everyone's wearing an environment suit before we leave orbit. How would they know? I mean, it's the goddamn contact light. Think of how much those higher security chests could flip for. And some of that Miltech on that ship? Howdy hey. That's probably what some of those other boys were thinking, sneaking onto the ship in the first place. My coat? I'm a thief, not a plumber. Of course I'm bringing my coat. Okay, everything checks out. You're free to go, pal. The robot chirped in acknowledgement. It folded neatly unto itself, and began rolling down the hangar's exit lane at a very safe pace. Hiroshi pulled a switch. The ceiling rail sprung to life, with a distinct mechanical chatter. So, what's wrong with this one? Rico inquired with minimal interest, seemingly distracted by the novel he had buried himself in. Looks like cosmetic damage on a multi-unit. Got dinged up by another unit in the charging bay that malfunctioned after another power surge. We'll be checking on that one after this. You can thank the electrical crew for that one. Hiroshi remarked, either completely disinterested in Rico's disinterest. Great. How hard is it for them to keep things stable? They have robots doing 90% of their job anyways. Rico scoffed. We've got complaints on the unit about poor welding jobs, which might have been the cause. Optical calibration is probably off, so we'll also be taking a look at that while it's here. I'd still put my money on it being electrical not keeping up with maintenance. Hey, Rico, would you put that down and help me out? The rail brought a new bright yellow robot, slumbering into the hangar. Hiroshi flipped the switch, and the rail slowed to a halt, bringing with it silence. He began moving to unhook the robot. Reluctantly, Rico set his book on the work desk and started to help unload. In a few minutes, the robot was on the service platform. Hiroshi walked over to one of the tool cabinets and pulled out a strange device. He popped open the access panel to the unit's dented head. And began probing at the damage from the opposite side. To time it all, the tool beeped and kicked back violently. The dent was gone. Go put this away while I fix the optics, Hiroshi said, one arm stretched back behind his back, device in hand. I have something I want to show you in a sec. Rico grunted and took the dedenting tool back to the cabinet. Hiroshi was already soldering away the iron from his back pocket. This got Rico's interest. You don't need a soldering iron to fix the calibration. What are you doing? He asked. Remember when I said I wanted to show you something cool the next time we got a multi in the shop? Come here, said Hiroshi, gesturing. You see these two chips? It's actually just one chip that's been split. Multis come with the same cores as those fancy chef bots, but they cut off access to the learning module. You don't say, Rico responded, still trying to see the chip Hiroshi was talking about. Why'd they do something like that? It's cheaper just to make all the cores the same way at the factory and alter them later. The manufacturer says it's for safety, but they just use it to sell you the new cores every few years instead of letting you teach the units to do a new job, Hiroshi explained. Sounds about right. If we're a safety issue, why don't they do the same thing for the chef robots? They've been super stable. Can't say they've ever gotten an order wrong, even if it's totally out there. They even managed to get Ma's Squid Risto right. It's what they can get away with. Anyway, that should do it. We'll just sneak a few minutes with this guy. Wake up, he commanded. The robot's relaxed posture disappeared, and it stood fully alert. Hey, pal, you see what I'm doing with my hands? Can you do that? The robot mimicked a rude gesture. That's fantastic. You're doing great. Hiroshi was excited, and Rico got a devilish grin. He rushed off to his desk. Hiroshi continued repeating the gesture, and the robot continued mimicking it back with its single functioning hand. Rico stepped back into the robot's view with a picture covered in holes. Can you remember this man? It's Ron from the corporation. He's a total degenerate. The robot beeped an affirmation. Can you do that the next time you see the man? The robot beeped an affirmation again. Rico, he's gonna remember that. Multi, forget that. The robot didn't respond. What are you two up to now? Said a grating voice, clearly approaching from no discernible direction. In a panic, Hiroshi slapped the access panel on the unit's head closed and covered its optical sensor. Just fixing up robots! Doing our job! In fact, we just finished with this one. You're good to go, pal, Hiroshi exclaimed to Ron, slapping the robot on the back. The machine folded up neatly into itself and began rolling down the exit hangar. I see. I'd better not catch you two slacking again, Ron said sternly, before turning around and making his usual relieving exit, most likely to pester other workers on his routine. They both let out a sigh of relief. Rico stood up. Well, we're due at the site in about 13 hours. That's enough time to grab the multi, pop it back open, and reset it. Hiroshi also stood up. Yeah, I'm not too worried. How much trouble could it cause in 13 hours? The future is now. Cybernetic enhancements. Buy them cheap and become the person you've always dreamed of being. Cybernetic enhancements were all the rage these days, especially since they were made available for public use. Initially, only military and commercial projects could license the procedures necessary to install cybernetic implants. But those days were long gone, and the concept of the new human was taking the galaxy by storm. Of course, with any movement, there was backlash. What was the sanctity of the human body? What about taking pride in your biology? Such arguments were normally laughed off. Get with the times, people would say. But one man among many stood out, gaining public attention and started a counter-movement of anti-cybernetics. The man postulated that mankind was walking on a tightrope. When does cybernetics end, and where does the human begin? Will mankind end up as a machine species, or will we use our new technology to only better ourselves, without losing sight of what makes us human? The words of this man echoed across the galaxy, leaving a trail of revolution in its wake. With the intense belief that heaven is a planet and not a mystical place, the High Court searched deep into space for the promised land. Intensely driven by both dogma and science, the High Court holds amazing technological marvels, with nearly all of them hidden deep within their halls. The House Beyond represents the most ambitious of the High Court's followers, spearheading Zone 5 deep space travel. With the advantage of their unique ENV suits, the House Beyond has gone deeper into space than any other house in the High Court by an order of magnitude. The ENV suit, worn by the Artificers of the High Court, is an engineering marvel, able to calibrate to the conditions of any environment. The technology behind the ENV suit, like all other High Court technology, is still undisclosed. The European noble paced around his chambers, nervously checking the antique clock adorning his wall. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. The riots had been escalating and showing no signs of slowing down. Effigies burned, statues were torn down, and countless politicians turned their back on the once prestigious nobility of Europa. The people had enough. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. It was only a matter of time. Either the noble would have to flee, or the mob would finally breach the palace. Even his bodyguards began to show signs of betrayal. Time, the noble thought, was just something he didn't have. The antique clock kept ticking, working upon the noble's mind, keeping him distracted, just long enough. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. And as the antique clock kept ticking, the noble's body hit the floor. The mercenary sheathed his blade. His footsteps were unheard as he left the palace, masked by the rhythmic ticking of the clock. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Status report on the hydroponics unit. Serial key begins with 12EA0311 SD095A. Yeah, 12EA03. Tasked with care for the cabbage, lettuce, and Mizuna growths. About 250 plants in total. Stable, but losing biomass. I think there are some issues with the microgravity. Keep an eye on the biomass. We might have to scrap 12EA03 and replace it with one of our evergreen units. Moving on. Serial key CRP 012D054JD0. CRP01 is doing alright. Tasked with corn. About 80 plants total. Lost 6 down to 74. Sustainable, I suppose. What about serial key REX0CH12D66M? Oh, that unit. Yeah, it was tasked with care for one of our cabbage hybrids. To be quite frank, it turned out terrible. I think we started with 80 units, but we've lost 79. The hybrid species just weren't spliced right. I think there was no way to sustain them. And the status report on the unit? Well, it's out on the star deck. It managed to hoist the last hybrid onto the platform base, and it's been walking around the ship ever since, chasing down Starlight. What? The unit left hydroponics? Yes, but so the unit is disengaging from protocol. Well, yes, but instead of terminating the unit, you let it roam around the starship unsupervised. Just the team. Well, we just kind of felt bad for the thing. You know, it's trying really hard to keep the last hybrid alive and go terminate the unit. Well, the thing is, Rex is doing actually a great job. The hybrid's biomass... Are you kidding? Terminate the unit. You have no idea what happens to a robot once it disengages from protocol. You are putting the life of your entire team in danger for the sake of a stray hydroponics unit. This should not even be a discussion. Yes, sir. A lot of people would say that loading cargo is a dull job. The loader could not disagree more. Other jobs don't supply their employees with a fully articulated titanium exoskeleton capable of lifting 250 tons. Other jobs don't allow their employees to meet the crews of countless starships from across the galaxy. Other jobs don't let you use your exoskeleton for your own entertainment, much less outfit it with a custom-built grappling hook powered by a winch capable of hauling up to 100 tons. Other jobs don't involve being approached by a legend among the UES workforce and asked to embark on a classified mission to uncharted territories. Other jobs don't involve fighting exotic and strange alien creatures and exploring mystical ruins on another planet. A lot of people would say that loading cargo was a dull job. The loader could not disagree more. Theoretically, the true content of the cells were just a mess of atoms. The structure of the contents in each cell, living, weapon, whatever, was categorized, sequenced, and then turned into juice and cured into solid gems. An incredibly efficient and lossless format. And yet, when the cell containment broke and emergency protocols resequenced that mess of atoms back into the creature known as Acrid, he already knew. Maybe he was somehow conscious in his juice gem state. Maybe they injected him with information. Maybe he was connected to their psionic network. Maybe he just made it up. But he knew that the strange crustaceans that scrambled his atoms and imprisoned him here in a place unknown were panicking. Something had gone wrong in a world where variables were not allowed. Something was leaking. They may have finally imprisoned something that could not be contained. A rescue mission? The old man leaned forward. Scanning the document slid over his desk, his eyes paused on a collection of words near the bottom. UES contact light. Yes. He continued to read the document. The safe travels for a rescue mission. As one of the few surviving captains of the old colony ships, he knew all the designations by memory. The Safe Travels was not a rescue ship. Any armaments? No. We'll have to fix that. With a sigh, he stood up. His prosthetics tugged at his joints. Despite being lighter than his original limbs, they always felt heavy. And let me guess, top secret, right? Yes. He gave another sigh. They were always top secret. But a small smile crept onto his face. He glanced up to his old radio helmet. He's been bored in retirement anyways. A blue flash appeared in one of the storage bays of the contact light. The chaos ensuing on the ship was a perfect distraction. As soon as Kurskon stepped out of the portal, she ducked into a sprint. She had no time. She weaved between gunfire and fireballs, between blasts of vagrant energy and onboard security systems. They paid no mind to the feathered figure as she darted through the closing blast doors. She flew quickly down the halls of the ship. Despite it being her first time on board a human vessel, she could sense the electromagnets in the wall, and where they all joined. She corked right, shooting into the ventilation shafts with a bang. The captain barely had a chance to see her before she blasted sideways out of the control room. She tore out 2 wind blades as he reached for his pistol. The captain fell to the ground in intervals. Her momentum crashed her into the control panels, both feet digging into the monitors. She didn't need those. Nimble clawed fingers began ripping across the keypads. She quickly split and rewired the components, reaching into her feathered pouches for more bridges and other electronics. Various capacitors fell to the floor. The ship was big, but not complex. And more importantly, it could still fly, but she had to go fast. Or he. And before she could finish her thought, he appeared in a flash of thunder. Blue and green light reflected off his sword, cascading around the bridge. A cape shuddered, and Providence landed lightly on his feet. Kurskan bent her head backwards over her body, her hand still tearing at the panels. He was much faster than she expected, but maybe he would. Her last thoughts were interrupted instantly by a crystalline blade. The strange crustaceans. Crab boys. Purple. Funny purple crap. The soldier ducked, barely getting under cover as the wall behind him exploded. His head was pounding. His muscles were aching. But now was not the time for rest. He counted the seconds, mounted the Initially, only military and commercial projects could license the nimble clawed fingers began. Other jobs don't involve fighting exotic and strange alien creatures and exploring mythical